Hey, fun food fans. We are back and over here at the stove so that we can start to whip together, or whisk together actually, the next really super flavorful component of our tasty turkey celebratory dinner. Come on down and I'll show you what we've got and how we got it. Okay, so here we are on the stove, and I have this bowl. This was the liquid that was completely poured off from our roasting tray over here when we took out our turkey drumsticks. Those are resting over here off to the side, but what I did was I poured the hot liquid into this bowl, and then I chilled it. So if you can see right around the edges, the little scrapings, here what I did after it chilled, what that does is help to actually separate the meaty stock from the actual fat that solidifies on top when the liquid is cooled. Now the reason that that's important is what we're about to build is a gravy, which again, from some of my favorite poor people food kind of resourceful creativity comes a super duper flavorful sauce. It starts with the fat, and what I did was I scraped off that solidified fat from this bowl here, and I separated most of it out into a separate dish. But I took a couple of tablespoons and I put them right here into our saucepan. So as that is liquefying again and heating up, we are going to build the rest of our gravy. Come on over here a little closer so that you can see how this comes together. All right, so you can see the liquefied fat in there, and to that I'm going to add approximately an equal amount of flour into the mix, and I'm just sprinkling this over gently, you see, because I have not measured this exactly. You can do this a couple of tablespoons at a time, but what I'm doing now is with my coated whisk, and this is so that it doesn't scratch up my nonstick surface here in this little pot, I am just whisking this together. There we go. And I can see as this is coming together actually that this is not going to be quite as much as what I wanted. So I'm going to go ahead and add another tablespoon of fat and flour to this mixture. All right, so there we go. Another tablespoon of fat and another bit of flour here. And what we're looking to do is create what's known as a roux in classic French cooking. I'm going to continue to stir this. You can see how it comes together to form a thick paste. And I'm just going to continue to whisk this. I don't want it to stick to the bottom and burn, but we do want it to slightly turn brown. This base, not only is it going to cook off that raw flour kind of taste to it, but this is going to form the basis of our gravy. And what we have in here is such a flavorful combination of all of those wonderful compounds from our cooking turkey, and by adding it to the stock, or by adding this thickened roux to the stock that we took off of the turkey drippings from our roasting pan, we are going to create the most flavorful sauce. Now I say create even more flavor here because this cooking process right now, as this turns brown, is what's known as the Maillard reaction, and that's one of the coolest kitchen science terms ever. It's what makes browning food taste so amazingly beautiful, because as it cooks, it helps to develop even more complex flavors than what we already have. And if you'll remember, we had a little bit of fat. We coated our roasting vegetables in olive oil, and we have some seasonings, the salt and the pepper and the sage, that we used to coat our turkey drumsticks before they went into the roasting pan. And that was it. But all of that comes together to create something even more flavorful. And the longer it cooks and the more brown it gets here at this stage, before we add the liquid, the more brown and the more flavorful the gravy that we make from it is going to be. So I'm cooking it down until I get approximately this color here. And for those of you in North America, peanut butter is the color that I say I'm going for. Peanut butter doesn't have the same meaning in all contexts though. So what I'm really looking for is a nice, light, really milky chocolate brown. A cafe latte, if you will. Although, again, that's going to depend on just how much milk you like in your cafe, isn't it? All right, now that our roux has turned nicely brown, I'm going to add the stock. And don't be concerned that mine looks a little bit gelatinous here. Remember, I refrigerated my stock. So this is going in cold, but it is still a liquid, and it's only started to solidify because of the collagen components from the cooking meat. So I add that into my roux, and I just continue to whisk, getting down into the corners to make sure that everything gets thoroughly incorporated. I'm going to wait until this gets to a thicker component here. I also actually had the ability to taste that liquid before it went in, and I know because of the components before, it was pretty salty. So I'm also going to add some plain water until I get the texture that I need. And I will only taste it for seasoning after that, knowing that I started with a highly seasoned and flavorful stock. If you are trying to make a gravy and you have a nice flavorful fat, but maybe you don't have some fresh stock like what we had from our cooking turkey, you can just add water, but you'll probably want to add a lot more seasoning than I am adding here. And that's why it's so important for us to taste our food at all the various stages of cooking to make sure that we are getting what we're looking for. And you can see now I'm just adding a little bit more liquid until it gets to be the consistency that I want. You can see our gravy is nice and dark brown, and it's time to give it a taste. Oh, that is amazing. I'm going to go ahead and kill the heat and take this off because that is exactly what we're looking for. And that's it. That is how we make a delicious and flavorful gravy. And you can see we used components that we've brought together over the last few hours, so it can take some time. But if you stay prepared and you have already stashed away some stock, because you know we make that all the time, or you've got some flavorful fats set aside, you can see how easily you can pull together your own flavorful gravy. Not just for this kind of celebratory turkey flavored meal, but for any meal that you have in your kitchen classroom. All right, we're gonna get the rest of the components of this dinner together, and we'll show you how all of this deliciousness gets to be our special summer treat. We'll be back in the next segment.